Imagine a world where the ordinary becomes the extraordinary, where a seemingly routine flight holds secrets that could unravel a criminal enterprise. No one could have predicted the true nature of what was quietly unfolding at Heathrow Airport on that seemingly uneventful day. Two women, blending seamlessly into the bustling international terminal, presented themselves for a business-class flight bound for Dubai. Their 7 large suitcases, perhaps a bit excessive for a typical getaway, raised no immediate red flags, passing through check-in with an unsettling ease. The bags, heavy with a hidden purpose, rolled along the conveyor belts, navigating the automated systems without a single alarm, no intrusive searches, nothing to betray the astonishing truth nestled deep within their contents. They soon settled into their plush seats, awaiting the signal for takeoff, blissfully unaware of the watchful eyes that would soon turn their way, or perhaps, perfectly aware of the silent game they were playing. For beneath layers of designer clothes and everyday toiletries, tightly packed and meticulously vacuum-sealed, lay something far more valuable and illicit. This wasn't about drugs or weapons, the usual suspects for security scanners, but millions in untraceable, clean cash, a silent fortune designed to slip through the cracks. This is the astonishing true story of an elaborate luxury courier network that systematically moved over £100 million from the unsuspecting streets of the United Kingdom directly into the opulent heart of Dubai, and the enigmatic figure who orchestrated every single intricate detail from the shadows, a true hidden kingpin. He didn't fit the stereotypical image of a criminal mastermind. There was no menacing underworld reputation, no flashy displays of wealth, no glaring red flags that would instantly mark him. Instead, Abdullah Muhammad Ali bin Bayat al-Falaisi presented himself as a quiet, unassuming man from Dubai, armed with a diplomatic-sounding surname and a perfectly clean passport. But behind the closed doors of his carefully constructed world, al-Falaisi had meticulously engineered a sophisticated system, one that would shockingly siphon more criminal cash out of the UK than almost any individual before him. His operations began modestly, almost imperceptibly. On the first day of 2020, al-Falaisi boarded a flight from Heathrow to Dubai, carrying with him 11 suitcases and declaring a sum just shy of £700,000. It was a test, a precursor, and certainly would not be his last venture. Over the course of 10 subsequent flights, he personally transported nearly £6 million, a sum that quickly convinced him it was time to scale his ambitious enterprise. The methodology was elegantly simple, yet brutally effective. Cash collected in the UK, transformed into gold once it reached Dubai. He levied a charge of approximately 10% on the total amount moved, offering his clandestine services to a clientele believed to include powerful organized crime groups and notorious drug traffickers. In exchange, he managed every single facet of the operation, sourcing couriers, handling complex logistics, generating fraudulent front paperwork, and meticulously laundering the illicit funds at the destination. By the time his network reached its peak capacity, a staggering sum in excess of £100 million had been meticulously channeled through his clandestine system. To lend an air of legitimacy to his illicit trade, he even registered a seemingly innocuous company, Omniist Gold Trading. His couriers were provided with elaborately forged letters, boldly claiming to be authorized cash transporters acting on behalf of this legitimate-looking business. Al-Falaisi himself handled all the flight bookings, an ingenious move that allowed him to accumulate vast air miles, secure business-class seats for the crucial extra baggage allowance, and even remotely manage their intricate itineraries. Yet, he remained a phantom, always physically distant, always operating from the comfort of Dubai, and always maintaining an unsettling silence. It wasn't until late 2021, when he made the seemingly innocuous mistake of traveling to London with his family, that the tightly woven threads of his operation finally began to fray, threatening to unravel everything he had built. She had performed the task 3 times before, each journey executed flawlessly, without a single hitch. Every trip followed an identical, almost monotonous pattern: fly into the glistening city of Dubai, check into a luxurious resort, drop off the heavy bags, and then effortlessly head back home. There were never any questions, No probing inspections, just a few days basking in the sun and a few more at home, enjoying the fruits of her easy money. But on her fourth run, something fundamentally shifted in the carefully orchestrated routine. It was October 3, 2020. Tara Hanland, a recruitment manager from Leeds, wheeled 5 conspicuously large suitcases into Heathrow's bustling Terminal 5. She was traveling with another woman, Megan Reeves, and they presented a seemingly innocent story to the check-in staff, a casual girl's trip to Dubai. The luggage, weighing in at more than 60 kilograms in total, was packed precisely as instructed. Bricks of cash, meticulously vacuum-sealed and cunningly wrapped in coffee grounds, a desperate attempt to fool sniffer dogs, lay beneath layers of everyday clothes. Air fresheners were strategically stuffed around the edges, creating a facade of normalcy. From an external perspective, absolutely nothing appeared out of place, yet unknown to Hanland, Border Force officers were already closely observing her every move. This time, a highly trained detection dog locked onto a scent that shouldn't have been there. Hanland was swiftly pulled aside, led into a sterile side room for questioning. She adamantly claimed the bags contained only clothes, insisted she knew nothing of what her friend might have packed, and maintained she was merely going away for a relaxing break. What she failed to mention was the astonishing discovery inside those cases: £1.9 million in crisp notes. When officers confiscated her phone and began their forensic examination, the true, complex picture of the operation began to emerge. Messages exchanged with Michelle Clark, the woman who had originally recruited her, detailed precise instructions: when to check in, what to say if questioned, how to behave under pressure. Crucially, evidence of earlier trips surfaced, revealing 3 previous journeys over the summer, during which Hanland had transported more than £3.5 million in total. Just days prior to her arrest, she had even messaged Clark, explicitly asking for 12 more people who were fit, can't talk, and reliable. Hanland's arrest wasn't just about apprehending a single courier, it was the crucial thread that, once pulled, threatened to unravel an entire meticulously constructed criminal network. But before we delve into the dramatic collapse of this vast operation, we need to understand the woman orchestrating it all from Dubai and the unsuspecting couriers who did her bidding. Hanland's cooperation provided investigators with numerous names, but one name consistently resonated, standing out amongst the rest: Michelle Clark. She wasn't merely another courier, didn't personally carry heavy bags through bustling airports, nor did she patiently wait in departure lounges. Clark was the quiet architect, the one making all the pivotal calls. A former executive assistant for Sky TV from Leeds, Clark had seemingly relocated to Dubai with her husband and children for a fresh start. Yet, beneath the surface of this new life, she had already begun building something far more sinister. Police later unearthed a trove of messages, meticulously linking Clark to nearly every key courier within the network. She expertly handled all flight arrangements, dispatched the forged documents, and issued precise instructions through highly encrypted chat groups. For each clandestine run, she dictated exactly what the couriers were to pack, where they needed to go, what they should say if confronted, and crucially, what they absolutely must not say. Most of her operatives never met her in person, relying solely on her digital directives. Those who did described her as remarkably calm, utterly convincing, and strikingly professional, carrying herself with an almost diplomatic air. In fact, that's precisely what she told them she did, that she worked for an embassy. To maintain absolute control and a tight grip on her expanding workforce, she created a seemingly innocuous group chat, a digital hub she playfully named Sunshine and Lollipops. Michelle Clark was a meticulous planner, leaving absolutely nothing to chance. If you were working as a courier under her command, you were immediately inducted into one centralized, highly controlled digital space, a group chat deceptively named Sunshine and Lollipops. It sounded utterly harmless, almost childlike, didn't it? But behind that emoji-filled name lay one of the most tightly controlled and ruthlessly efficient cash smuggling networks ever uncovered in the United Kingdom. Couriers were rigorously vetted and personally onboarded by Clark herself. Once granted access to the exclusive group, They received detailed, step-by-step instructions for every aspect of each upcoming trip. Every single detail was meticulously planned down to the hour, mirroring the precise directives found in Tara Hanlon's seized phone messages. There were strict rules: absolutely no phone calls, no outside messages, just encrypted chat within the group and absolute silence beyond it. Each runner was specifically instructed to purchase a pay-as-you-go burner phone, to be used exclusively for that particular journey. Upon their return, they were told to wipe the device clean and then patiently wait for their next assignment, which would only come when Clark herself initiated contact again. All bookings, without exception, ran through her. She deftly paid for Emirates business class flights, leveraging Al-Falai's credit card, a strategic move that afforded couriers a generous higher baggage allowance, up to 4 large suitcases per passenger. In Dubai, a waiting team of handlers ensured the drop was always smooth and efficient. Couriers would simply hand over the bags, check into a resort, typically stay 1 or 2 nights, and then fly home. Most never saw the illicit cash again once it left their hands. Over time, the group swelled, more names were added, more trips were undertaken, yet the core rules remained unwavering: don't ask questions, don't speak to anyone, and never, ever deviate from the plan. Some followed these directives to the letter, their adherence unwavering. Others, however, began to bring in friends, relatives, even their own partners, individuals they foolishly believed they could implicitly trust. And it was precisely at this point that the tightly knit network began its inevitable, slow fracture. They certainly didn't look like hardened criminals. There were no prior records, no telltale gang tattoos, just influences, former models, corporate professionals, people expertly skilled at blending seamlessly into any crowd. And that, of course, was precisely the point. Most were directly approached by Michelle Clark, some were her existing friends, while others came through carefully curated introductions, lured by the promise of a quick job that paid thousands for just a few days away. No drugs, no risks, just suitcases, they were told. And to quell any lingering doubts, a legitimate-looking company letter was provided to explain everything. Joving, a former model known for her past relationship with boxer Joe Calzaghe, epitomized the carefully crafted image of the operation. Clark met her discreetly in Knightsbridge and offered a tempting £3,000 for a single trip, sweetened with a luxurious stay in Dubai. Joving accepted, and later, even brought in her partner, Jonathan Johnson. Johnson, who worked in executive recruitment, was, on paper, a cautious individual, sending worried texts before one flight, remarking that the luggage looked ridiculous. Yet, he boarded anyway, ultimately helping Joving transport nearly £3 million across 2 separate trips. Amy Harrison, quiet and low profile, joined the ranks through a similar channel from Surrey. She undertook 3 trips, often assisting with crucial logistics, from meticulous packing to managing paperwork. Described as exceptionally reliable, she never asked questions. Beatrice Orty was more deeply involved. A 26-year-old from Fulham with a background in media, she was initially hesitant, but Clark's persuasive reassurance, coupled with official-looking stamp certificates and flight bookings, convinced her. Eventually, Orty found herself handling arrangements for other couriers, organizing an astonishing 16 trips in addition to her own. Nicola Essen was a different profile, older, less digitally visible, brought into the fold through offline contacts. She consistently flew business class, carrying a staggering 19 suitcases across 3 journeys, with nearly £6.5 million passing through her hands. And several more couriers, maintaining even lower digital presences, also played their part in this secretive operation. Mohammed Ilas kept to himself, an enigma. No entourage, no casual chatter, just quiet trips, solo flights, and sealed instructions. Megan Reeves, who joined through Hanland, claimed she was drowning in debt and saw this as her only escape. One trip quickly morphed into plans for 13. Stacey Borge moved in silence, leaving no online footprint, no visible trail, but she flew often, always with heavy bags and expertly forged paperwork clutched in her hand. And then there was Paige Henry, just 25 years old, yet already entrusted with more cash than most could ever imagine. 4 trips, over £8 million moved, and not a single mistake. Some couriers told themselves it was all perfectly legitimate. Some simply chose not to ask any probing questions. But all of them clung to one unwavering belief, that they would get in, get out, and crucially, they would never get caught. What would you have done in that place, when faced with such an alluring, yet dangerous, proposition? They knew precisely who to target, individuals seeking quick financial gain. But to consistently move that immense volume of cash, tens of millions in untraceable notes, the system had to be absolutely, meticulously exact. Once a courier was confirmed and vetted, the process would begin its precise choreography. Cash was painstakingly collected from various criminal gangs across the UK, most of it directly linked to the lucrative drug trafficking trade. None of it, of course, was traceable. These bundles of illicit wealth would then arrive at a network of rented flats scattered across London, unassuming counting houses discreetly run by trusted contacts. These sterile environments contained no furniture, no cameras, just simple tables, precise scales, vacuum sealing machines, and rolls of plastic wrap. Bundles of cash were meticulously sorted into units of £500,000 per suitcase. Each case was carefully layered, with innocent-looking clothes and toiletries placed at the top, concealing bricks of sterling notes packed tightly beneath. Everything was then painstakingly vacuum-sealed, and the telltale smell of money ingeniously disguised with coffee grounds, strong mouthwash, and scented dryer sheets. The method was remarkably solid, a testament to its criminal ingenuity. But what truly made it possible, what sustained this audacious operation for so long, was the system itself. UK airport security, by design, primarily focuses on immediate threats, explosives, weapons, drugs, items that could potentially bring down a plane or endanger lives. It does not, crucially, routinely scan for cash. At Heathrow, suitcases are propelled through advanced 3D scanners utilizing computed tomography, the very same sophisticated technology employed in medical imaging. If the software detects something genuinely dangerous, it flags it for human inspection. Otherwise, the image passes through, unseen by human eyes. Cash, quite simply, isn't flagged. Under UK law, travelers are legally obliged to declare if they are carrying more than £10,000 in cash when departing the country. However, this system regrettably relies entirely on honesty. There are no routine checks, no specific luggage scans for currency, and once you're airborne, quite literally, no one is looking. That gaping loophole, that silent, unmonitored space, was precisely what the network thrived upon. Once in Dubai, the protocol shifted slightly. Michelle Clark provided each courier with a fake authorization letter from Omniist Gold Trading, meticulously printed on company letterhead, officially stamped, and duly signed. It boldly claimed the courier was officially transporting cash for business purposes. At the airport, they would confidently hand this paperwork to customs officials. The documents appeared legitimate, matching the expected profiles, and consequently, the bags were waved through without issue. Handlers were waiting at the terminal, ensuring the drop-off was quick, clean, and utterly efficient. It worked flawlessly for months, a seamless conduit for illicit funds. Yet, the network didn't ultimately fall apart due to one singular, catastrophic mistake. It collapsed, instead, because, one by one, every single courier eventually made their own individual, unavoidable misstep. Now, let us return to where we left off, at the pivotal arrest of Tara Hanland. Because what unfolded next wasn't heralded by loud pronouncements or dramatic headlines. There were no sensational press briefings, no strategic leaks to the media, no public warnings to the underworld. Instead, investigators worked tirelessly and in absolute silence, meticulously connecting names, tracing complex booking histories, and painstakingly extracting invaluable data from every seized device. Each minute detail, no matter how seemingly insignificant, slowly added to a growing, intricate map. Flights, precise baggage weights, ticket payments, passport scans, piece by piece, the fragmented outlines of the vast network began to solidify, one courier at a time. But above them all, pulling the silent strings, was one name no one had yet publicly identified. Tara Hanland was the first domino to fall, but she was far from alone. Once her phone irrevocably linked them to Michelle Clark, the National Crime Agency, or NCA, relentlessly followed the digital trail. The next to fall was Jane Kameret, a Czech national, apprehended at Heathrow mere weeks later. He had a staggering £1.3 million hidden within his luggage, transported on the same airline, utilizing the identical packing method, and presenting the same forged paperwork from Omniist Gold Trading. Then came Joving and Jonathan Johnson, arrested together at Manchester Airport in March 2022. By then, they had already completed 2 successful flights, in August and September 2020, collectively smuggling nearly £5 million between them. Border Force had actually flagged them months prior, but by the time of their arrest, the NCA had amassed sufficient evidence to act decisively. Amy Harrison, who had flown 3 times, carrying over £6 million across 15 suitcases, was swept up in the investigations following Johnson and Joving's apprehension. She wasn't merely a carrier, she had been intricately involved in the planning, assisting with bookings and the crucial packing process. Beatrice Orti, another successful courier, was arrested at her home. When her door was dramatically breached during the May 2021 raids, the NCA already possessed undeniable records linking her directly to both Clark and Al-Falesi. The same disheartening pattern relentlessly repeated itself. Nicola Essen, a 56-year-old from Leeds, was subsequently brought in. She had operated cunningly under the radar for months, until passenger records eventually caught up with her. Mohammed Ilas stood out for a different, somewhat unexpected reason. He had completed 2 runs, but on one of those trips, a bag mysteriously vanished in transit. It later resurfaced at Heathrow, still unopened, still packed with £431,000 inside. That significant loss immediately placed him firmly on the radar of law enforcement. And when he returned on another flight, Border Force officers were patiently waiting for him. He was arrested immediately upon arrival. Low profile or not, his pivotal role was already meticulously documented. And like all the others, the path of evidence led directly back to the very core of the operation. Each courier's arrest, almost like a puzzle piece falling into place, unlocked the next crucial step. The same types of phone messages, the consistent booking data, the identical email receipts, it all led upwards, converging on the same flight account, the very same credit card, the distinctive company letterhead. And behind every single one of those incriminating details, one name kept returning, echoing through the investigation: Abdullah Al-Falesi. But there was a significant problem, a formidable obstacle that seemed insurmountable. He was safely in Dubai, seemingly out of reach, untouchable, until he wasn't. For months, his name had quietly resided at the very center of the sprawling investigation, a crucial but distant figure. He was in Dubai, a city known for its complex legal framework, and there was no immediate extradition order in sight. Consequently, the case appeared to stall at its pinnacle, unable to reach the true orchestrator. The NCA had meticulously built a mountain of evidence, but without Al-Falesi physically on UK soil, there was simply no move to be made. Then, without any warning, the impossible happened: he came to them. In December 2021, Abdullah Al-Falesi boarded a flight to London, traveling with his wife and children for what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary, personal visit. They settled into a luxurious, high-end apartment in Belgravia, a property conveniently owned by his in-laws. No aliases, no disguises, no attempts to hide his identity. It remains baffling why he chose to come. Perhaps he genuinely believed he was safe, that his role had remained entirely invisible, that the cascade of arrests hadn't yet reached his name. But the NCA was ready. They moved in quietly, around lunchtime, executing their plan with precision. 3 phones were swiftly seized from him, and with them, the final, irrefutable pieces of the puzzle were secured. Inside, investigators found astonishing evidence: photographs of couriers' passports, incriminating messages meticulously planning handovers, detailed itineraries, precise packing lists, and crucial photographs of the suitcases themselves. Everything they needed, typed out, photographed, and confirmed. He was immediately charged with money laundering. At Isleworth Crown Court in the summer of 2022, the astonishing story reached its dramatic final act. Abdullah al-Falasai, the enigmatic figure who had meticulously stayed in the background, the one who had ingeniously built the entire intricate system, was finally brought to justice. He pleaded guilty to the charge of removing criminal property, acknowledging his central role in laundering more than £100 million out of the United Kingdom. The presiding judge vividly described the setup as a considerable network under your charge and handed down a sentence that fittingly matched the scale of his crimes: 9 years and 7 months behind bars. A substantial confiscation order followed, with £2.5 million in assets seized, including a luxury Mercedes G63, a robust Ford pickup, and 3 highly coveted Rolex watches. Every single penny was paid back. Tara Hanland, the courier whose initial arrest had inadvertently cracked the entire case open, received 34 months in prison. Judge Karen Holt acknowledged her vulnerability but firmly stated that Hanland knew exactly what she was doing. Zdeněk Kamarit, the Czech National Court with over £1 million in cash, was sentenced to 2 years and 10 months. Joving was given 24 months, suspended for 2 years, coupled with 200 hours of unpaid community work. Her partner, Jonathan Johnson, received a 12-month suspended sentence. Amy Harrison and Nicola Essen were also given suspended sentences after pleading guilty and choosing to cooperate with authorities. Beatrice Orti, more deeply involved in the network than most, received the longest sentence of the couriers, 42 months behind bars. Other remaining couriers currently await their sentencing. Michelle Clark, the elusive handler at the very center of it all, remains under active investigation. She has not left the UAE since late 2020, still barred from international travel and still fiercely wanted by UK authorities. This compelling case exposed a network that brazenly utilized international airports like a simple motorway, a silent, unchecked highway for illicit wealth. There were no overt threats, no dangerous weapons, just ordinary-looking suitcases packed with unimaginable amounts of cash and a systemic loophole that allowed it to pass through entirely undetected. What do you make of this complex case? The sheer volume of money, the cunning method employed, the sentences handed down, do you believe justice truly went far enough? Let us know what you think and share your predictions in the comments below. If you want to see how investigators finally uncovered the full truth and other captivating cases, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's always another story to uncover, another secret waiting to be revealed.